Welcome back, everyone. So I've been talking so much about the iPhone 12s that I totally forgot to talk about the older iPhones. And the iPhone 8 actually turned 3 years old just like a couple months ago. And what's so fascinating is that this was pretty much the last iPhone to bring a home button up until this year. We had the iPhone SE2, which was in a way just a reincarnated version of the iPhone 8. It shared a lot of the same components for the most part, just really changed the internals in terms of the chipset and everything in the RAM. But I still think, before the iPhone SE2 came out, it was like a pretty decent phone. I think the 8 Plus was a really good pickup for that time. But I think with the addition of the SE2, it's really starting to make me appreciate the iPhone 8 more because this is an old design, but the fact that Apple reincarnated it really makes me think that it's kind of more, I guess, updated this year than it was last year in a way. So the design is pretty much more acceptable, I think. And when you have phones like the iPhone 12 Pro that look so good, even 3 years later, I guess like 2 years later at that time when the SE2 came out, Apple is still recycling the same parts, which really says a lot about the iPhone 8 and the structure and everything. Now, with the iPhone 8 on the front, it looks pretty okay. I would definitely say it doesn't look like the newest device, but I've said this before and I'll say it again, and I don't know if it makes sense, but basically when people look at a phone like this, they don't really think it's like a super old, outdated phone with the amount of bezel on it. They just say it's like an older type of iPhone. And I think that sounds kind of better than like a super old, outdated phone. You still have that 4.7-inch display on the front, and I've already done like a late 2020 review of this device, but I wanted to hit on basically just what I love about it so much in the 3 years later. Now, when this thing first came out, it started off with iOS 11. We are on iOS 14 right now, specifically 14.1, and I think for the most part, like, it's been a good ride. I've been literally handling every single iOS version on this thing since iOS 11, and it's been a good ride. iOS 11 was weird, iOS 12 was better, iOS 13 was kind of good, and iOS 14 has really taken a toll on this thing in terms of battery life, but that's been pretty much across the board for all the devices. And I think for the front panel, it's good enough for the most part. It'll probably get the job done more so than a lot of other devices in my opinion, and I think that's one thing that really has held up so well about this. I think the chipset as well as the body. I think this phone has a really good body to it. I feel like, the specific model that I have has a cracked back, which is funny, and it still feels really good. When you look at this phone, every single year that this phone has been out, Apple has pretty much used this same type of design. This was the first iPhone, technically, since the iPhone 4S or something like that had a glass back. And I feel like bringing the glass back with the wireless charging was something that was really cool. And that was a huge addition at the time. And Apple has since then used every single iPhone with wireless charging and with the glass back. And I think, with the addition to this iPhone as well as the 4S, that really made a huge impact, in my opinion, on just the way how this phone feels and the premiumness to it. And I think, like I said before, the biggest asset of this device 3 years later is the fact that it still feels like a super premium device. When I use phones like the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, you can definitely feel like it's aged quite a bit because of the whole entire body. This phone doesn't really feel like it, which is really good. And what's even funnier is that, like I said, with the performance aspect, it's really not a slow phone. I mean, this phone came out in 2017. It wasn't a $1,000 phone at the time, but it was still like a good priced phone, I think. And I think when it comes down to everything, this is still a really good performing phone for the most part. Now, when you have phones like the 12 and 12 Pro and things like that, obviously those phones are the best performing phones, at least the best performing iPhones. And I would recommend people to pick those up. But when it comes down to just the price per value standpoint, you can pick these things up for like around $200, definitely less than $300. And that's not a bad price to pay for a phone like this. I would still recommend picking up an iPhone 10 if you can. But this is still a pretty decently built, pretty decently performing iPhone. And I feel like every single year that this phone has been out, I've talked about it every single one of those years. And a lot of people as a consensus love this phone. There are phones that I talk about and some people don't really like them too much. I feel like phones like the iPhone 6, for example, that's a phone that just kind of like split down the middle. Either people love it or people hate it. There's really not too much middle ground, but with a phone like this, I feel like everyone as a consensus just loves it. I feel like 2017 was a tremendous year for devices. We had the S8, we had the Note 8, I think, and then we had this phone and the iPhone 8 Plus and the iPhone 10, which was really awesome. So I think a whole 3 years later, this phone is still amazing. It's still getting software updates, which is really cool. And from the iPhone 8 to the SE2, you're definitely getting some improvements, but I feel like this is a really good phone still. And in terms of performance, I compared it to the iPhone 12 Pro. It's really not that bad. Like, of course, the iPhone 12 Pro is better, but still, this is like a pretty decently performing phone. And for a day-to-day basis, if you're somebody whose performance needs aren't crazy, then this phone can definitely get the job done for sure. But but I still think this phone has held up very well, and every single year after this phone came out, and every time I compared it to another phone, a lot of people still hype up the iPhone 8, which means that there's still a lot of love about this phone. So that really pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.